Now to our first focus this morning. It's the day after tomorrow in Washington. The question is, what happens now? From the White House to Capitol Hill, Speaker Boehner will address that question for the first time in front of cameras later this afternoon. As for the president, ahead of his meeting with congressional leaders tomorrow, his focus before the new year is on immigration action now.
What I'm not going to do is just wait. I think it's fair to say that I've shown a lot of patience and have tried to work on a bipartisan basis as much as possible.
One Republican senator who will likely be key to immigration reform in the new GOP Congress urged the president against action, speaking in Spanish on a trip to Colombia yesterday.
I
believe the first thing that will happen is that if the president takes any executive order, it is going to be a problem for the future in any kind of immigration reform. That's what Senator Rubio said in plain English. The next majority leader, by the way, of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, echoed Rubio's sentiments yesterday.
It's like waving a red flag in front of a bull to say, if you guys don't do what I want, I'm going to do it on my own.
Let's break all of this down with a trio to start us off this morning. Ed O'Keefe, congressional reporter for The Washington Post, Adrian Carrasquillo, editor of Latino coverage at BuzzFeed, and Maria Teresa Kumar, MSNBC contributor and president and CEO of Voto Latino. Maria Teresa, let's start with you. What can the president really do here? I mean, did he wait too long to act now that he has, well, just been handed a wave election from the American people?
I don't think that he waited too. I mean, yes, I think he's waited way too long, and I think that unfortunately he should have had an executive order the moment the midterms came up, because that's what he promised the community he was going to do. And let's take a step back. People are under the impression that Mitch McConnell and Boehner are actually going to come out with an immigration reform bill that the community and America is actually going to like. I think that the president is still in a position to do an executive order quickly and draw a line in the sand of what the and use it as a blueprint for what he expects coming out of Congress.
Adrian, you've covered each and every turn of the president on this issue, and you know, in my 9 conversations with the president, he has told me over and over again he's not a king. The electorate made that clear this week. So what's he going to do?
Well, I mean, I think it's clear that you also have to remember in 2012, Latino voters were key in getting him reelected. And they waited. I think that this year you saw grassroots pressure earlier this year at getting the president to act. Janet Murguia, NCLR, calling him the deporter-in-chief. The pressure's been strong. It abated a little bit with the election, with people focused on get-out-the-vote efforts, but now it's coming on big, strong again. Both advocates and Democrats are going to be coming out, telling the president to go big and bold. You heard him yesterday. He said he's going to act. That reaffirms what the White House has been saying both publicly and privately, and I think you're going to see that before the end of the year, the president's going to act. Still to see if it's going to be in a big way that advocates are hoping for, but certainly he's going to act.
And now, Ed, you cover Congress. You just heard some big GOP names in English and Espanol telling the president it would be better he not act alone. What happens if he does? And does this, in terms of the new Congress coming in, maybe cause a problem?
Absolutely it does. I spent, as all of us have, the entire year talking to Democrats and Republicans. I can't think of one Republican candidate or now lawmaker who said, you know what, if the president does something, I'm still willing to work with him on immigration. They haven't said it. This will immediately poison the well with Republicans on every single issue going forward, because you've heard them in the last few days say, we're willing to compromise, we're willing to work with him, and then he goes out and does that. As they have said repeatedly over the last few months, they would therefore oppose any other attempts to do something. Now, look, they obviously face some pressure. People who are running for president in 2016 are going to realize that something perhaps has to be at least attempted in order to hold on to what little Hispanic support they have. Although notably, in some states, there was a larger percentage of Hispanic vote for Republican candidates than anticipated, less for the Democrats. So perhaps some will feel compelled to perhaps try to build on that in 2 years or whenever they face re-election.
Now, Maria Teresa, what's at stake here with the Latino community? Ed was talking about the impact, and can they affect some sort of compromise in the face of the reality that this new Congress is?
Yeah, I think, Jose, let's have a reality. Mitch McConnell wasn't working with the president when he was in the minority. What makes everybody think that he's going to do so when he's in the majority and he wants to continue carrying on an extreme Republican agenda? That's number one. Number two, let's look at the race of what happened in Colorado with Gardner, who just won. Gardner had the Latino voters under the impression that he was for immigration reform because Udall didn't touch it. I think we have to have a very clear conversation and make sure the president acts now and creates a blueprint of what he expects Congress to come and meet in the forward. Because right now, even when Mitch McConnell was in the minority, he wasn't working with the president.
But Mitch McConnell wants to win, and he knows that in 2016.
But I think that's the other factor. It's like Mitch McConnell may want to win, but he has a very unruly senator in Ted Cruz, who already basically was the one that signaled what he wanted the House to do, and is the one that more or less can say he's a speaker in charge by default of the House. So now Mitch McConnell is inheriting not only more Tea Party candidates that won in a wave election in the House, but also in the Senate. So I think Mitch McConnell is going to have a very difficult time ruling and keeping his own party line in order. And I don't think that the president should wait for him personally.
Yeah, Adrian, I mean, the fact is that whether the president acts or doesn't act, there are going to be those that say that whatever he does on immigration reform is wrong and that you got to wait until the House does something when they had the opportunity. I mean, the Senate bill was passed over a year ago, and the House went, boop, punted on it, no gracias.
That's right, Jose.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the president was saying yesterday. You know, when people say he's poisoning the well, he's saying, I've waited, and I have to do what's right on my own. So that's what's going to be interesting right now to see how strongly Republicans go against him. You know, you remember, in 2012, some prominent conservatives started talking about, okay, path to citizenship, let's get this issue over with. And then you turn to this year, they released the principles on immigration, and then they said, you know what, actually this isn't good for midterm politics. We can win the Senate. You know what, we're not interested in working on immigration right now, as Speaker Boehner told the president. So that's what's going to be interesting now. I think that after the election, now that a couple days after the election, we're turning to 2016 and 2016 politics. So are Republicans going to want to obstruct and to be very loud and to really complain about what's going on here, or are they going to let him have this one as you look forward to the 2016 election?
And Jose,
yeah, I'm just wondering.
One of the things that's going to make it really difficult to get anything done around here, up the street, is the fact that Hispanics didn't turn out at all, really, or didn't turn out in the numbers they have in the past.
That's not the case. They actually
Maria,
did turn out.
Was turnout down? Was turnout down?
Actually, from the last midterm election, they actually did an uptick of 2%. That, unfortunately, is not enough. We still don't have our community voting in the numbers that they need to. We have.
Let me ask something to Ed here. Ed, is this a case of damned if you do and damned if you don't? Because
yes.
If you act a certain way, the president, you know, the opposition can use that as well. Look, you know, we were going to do something, but then the president is the barrier to it. But on the other hand, they may not have any plans of doing anything on it anyway.
No, he's totally up against the wall here, no matter who he faces. You heard Luis Gutierrez say yesterday, if he does nothing, we're all going to walk away from him and from the Democratic Party. Where they would go remains to be seen. And then, of course, if he does do something, Republicans in Congress are saying, you know, we don't want to work with him on anything else. So he's totally in a bind. The truth of the matter is he has said for several years to Hispanic lawmakers, to various immigration groups, and publicly, I'm going to do something. And now at this point he's saying, I'm going to do something after the midterms. Well, the clock is ticking. We'll see if he does it. The point I was making, Maria, yes, overall turnout was up. But in key states where it could have made a difference and where it could have helped, it was down. And everyone was saying, including you and in other groups, with all due respect, we needed a big turnout to prove to both parties that something is going to happen, and that will compel them to do it. That didn't happen, and it will make it more difficult for this issue to move forward in Congress.
Eduardo O'Keefe, Adrian Carrasquillo, and Maria Teresa Kumar, thank you all for being with me. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, Jose.